So see, just to recollect to all of you, use effect is a hook for life cycle for a class component. Sorry, functional component. Okay.
Yes.
So there are three variants in which you can use this. One is so basically use effect is a function. Okay. So it accepts a two argument. One is a callback function for every time whenever the component re-renders. Another one is a dependency list in array. Okay. So you that way. Okay. I won't go much now. Let me take this, copy this. Let me import it here. Import title. So title is title. So import the test in app.js. Import test in app.js. Module order. Okay, test C. Let me do one thing. So test C. Okay. So now we want to write this one also for the test C, right? Because test is also using the use effect, right? So we want to see whether it is re-rendered or not, right? So what we can do is, so we can use a use effect here also. So that use effect. So here also we'll say console log rendering test C. Okay, so no dependency list. So every time we are just trying to log this. Cool, right? Okay. What happened? So now title getting rendered. Test is getting rendered. Title getting rendered. Test is getting rendered. Title is getting rendered. Test is getting rendered.
You use a common component of both the places, it's getting rendered in design, right?
Yeah. So when you are wrapping things, right, because you are not passing any props to it. Okay. So you have to ensure by yourself whether this re-rendering should happen. Okay. But this is a different context. Okay. Altogether, it's not something related to should component update. But you guys asked me, right? So what could be the situation? You know, right? That's won't happen like that, right? So this is also, you know, you feel that this won't get re-rendered because there is no change, right?
Yeah.
But this get re-rendered. Okay. To avoid that,
full component will get re-rendered, right?
Yes, but see, there is nothing has changed over here, right?
Right.
Okay. So now, so this is the drawback in React, you could say, right? So now what you can do is you can do still work the same React dot memo, and there is something called React dot memo. Now what happens? Now you see what happens. Now it is not rendering, right?
Right.
So now tell me what is a React dot memo. I mean, you don't want me tell what it basically means and all that, what it looks like.
Should component
React.memo is a function, right? That accept a component as an input that returns the same component, right? You guys remember what is this concept? See, something accept a function as an input, returns a function as an output. What is that?
Higher order.
Yeah, that's what. Higher order components.
Yeah.
So React.memo is higher order component in React, which is comes out of the box from the React. So which takes care of this unwanted re-rendering.
No, but why should this be done explicitly? So the purpose of React, we are using React is itself to do that, no?
Yeah, okay. You tell me. That comes to that's a nice point. imagine you are rendering 10 rows, okay? 10 rows on a table, okay? Now tell me how you will tell the React you don't enter the 10th row and you don't enter the first row like that. How React knows that the 10th row should not be get re-rendered because that is the same snapshot is available in React. You understood, right? What my question? So you have a table of contents with a 10 rows, right? And you may be getting from the server as a JSON response and you're rendering and you are placing as a user list, right? Imagine there is something is happening. You're supposed to re-render one row. Instead, all the rows are getting re-rendered. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how you tell the React, okay, only this row has been changed, other row does not change, right?
Ideally, each row will be a component only, right?
Sorry.
Each row can be a component, right?
Yeah. Row can be a
Can be a
component.
lightweight component, right?
Yeah,
So,
row can be
so
component.
if one particular row gets changed, only that should change ideally.
Yeah. See, now you're coming to the same point as a title. Title is also one component also, right?
Exactly. So, what the question is, why should we worry about that? Is what I'm asking.
That's
So why
what.
can't React do it right now? Whatever you did, right? React.memo. Why can't React do that itself?
Yeah. See, that's what. Something comes with the benefit, also comes with the performance problem. Okay. What I'll say, see, you could see pure component and you could see this React.memo. You could see so many things Reacts provide out of the box to improve your performance, to avoid unwanted re-rendering, right? And you
No,
feel sorry for.
that's right. I mean, no, the question, see,
Hey,
I'm not arguing here. I'm not
wait.
arguing here. I'm
No, it's
saying
not.
the purpose with React.
No. Wait. See, that's a nice question only. See, what I'm saying is, see, though React comes with everything, so that's why Sencha comes with everything, and you have everything, and you have a performance problem. Are you?
No, see, the difference between Sencha, I will use React only.
Wait.
I will
See,
not.
we both know what is the problem with Sencha and what is the we know what is the problem with Sencha, right? So when you are having a library, and if library comes with everything which is unnecessary, right? Imagine this is React.memo is required unless you wrap the component like that. Other than that, it is not required. Am I? You could say, right? See, for not all the cases this is required, you could say, right? For
All the
few,
cases this is required. Why is it not required? See, every component will be a child of another component, right?
wait. Now coming back to the question of a row, okay? Row is a inside a grid. Row is a separate component. You could say header is a separate component. Row is a separate component. Now, how to tell the React that this row should not get updated because there is no fundamental changes happened. Okay. So for that, React has a provision for us to provide as a key property. Okay. So let's say you have a data. Let's say const data, right? And you have a data.
Hello? Praveen, we lost you. Libin, Dinesh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Suraj.
I think Praveen lost you.
Yeah.
Hey Dinesh, how are you? எப்படி இருக்க?
நல்லா இருக்கேன் சூரஜ், எப்படி இருக்கீங்க நீங்க?
ஓகேடா. இப்போ ஆங்குலர் இல்லையா? you're in Angular now.
ஆமா சூரஜ், ஆங்குலர் மட்டும் ஃபுல் ஸ்டாக்கா தான் வர்க் பண்றாங்க சூரஜ்.
ஓகே சூப்பர். எவ்வளவு நாள் ஆச்சு இப்போ ஃபுல் ஸ்டாக்ல?
நான் ஃபுல் ஸ்டாக்ல அந்த கம்பெனி விட்டு வந்ததுல இருந்து ஃபுல் ஸ்டாக்கா இருக்கேன். பட் ஆங்குலருக்கு ஸ்விட்ச் ஆகி ஒரு 1 இயர் 1.5 இயர்க்குள்ள தான் ஆகுது. அதுக்கு முன்ன இது .NET MVCல வர்க் பண்ணிருந்தேன். சோ அங்க வந்துட்டு ஆஸ் யூஷுவல் சும்மா CS HTML-ம் jQuery, அதுக்கப்புறம் .NET-ம் SQL அந்த மாதிரி. EXT இல்ல சூரஜ், EXT நம்ம கம்பெனி விட்டா EXT வெளியில சொல்றதே கஷ்டமா இருக்கும். நீங்க வேற. சில பேர்கிட்ட EXT சொன்னா என்னது அப்படின்னு கேட்பாங்களா? அப்படின்னு சொல்லி
Then why did you
அவங்களுக்கு
switch to Angular? Why not React? Why didn't they choose React? Why they chose Angular?
அந்த ஆங்குலரே ஒரு பையன் இனிஷியேட் எடுத்துட்டு வந்து சூஸ் பண்ணாது. ஏன்னா அது ஃப்ரேம் ஒர்க்ன்றனால கொஞ்சம் அவனே எல்லாம் கொடுத்துருப்பான்ற ஒரு ரீசனுக்காக எடுத்தாங்க.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே.
இது லைப்ரரிஸ், பட் அது ஃப்ரேம் ஒர்க் இல்லைங்களா? ஸோ செட்டப் அவனே கொடுப்பான். ஸோ அதனால ஃப்ரேம் ஒர்க்கே ப்ரெஃபர் பண்ணாங்க அந்த நேரத்துக்கு. பட் இப்போ நீ ரியாக்ட் எடுத்துன்னு வரதா இருந்தா எடுத்துன்னு தான் சொல்லுவாங்க. பட் நீ தான் பாசிபிள் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்லுவாங்க. நம்ம கட்ஸ் எடுத்து நம்ம எடுக்கணும், அவ்வளவுதான். இப்போ எல்லா ப்ராஜெக்ட்டும் ஆங்குலர்ல தான் பண்றோம்.
ஓகே ஓகே. பையன் எப்படி இருக்கா?
என்ன சுரேஷ்?
பையன் எப்படி இருக்கா?
பையன் நல்லா இருக்கான் சுரேஷ்.
ஸ்கூல் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆச்சா அவனுக்கு?
எங்க அவனை சும்மா ஃபிளின்டோல சேர்த்து விட்டேன். சரி ஏதோ ஒண்ணு படிக்கிட்டோம் அப்படின்ட்டு. அவன் வாய் தரனால தான் இன்னும் சரியாவே 3 வருஷம் ஆயிடுச்சு அவனுக்கு.
அப்போ இன்னொரு 6 அப்ப இந்த நெக்ஸ்ட் இயர் போலாம்ல?
இந்த இயரே போறவன் எங்க இன்னும் எதுவும் ஓபன் ஆகலல்ல.
ஆன்லைன் இங்கெல்லாம் ஆன்லைன் தான்.
இங்கேயும் ஆன்லைன் ஓடுது. என்ன 10 நிமிஷம் கார்ட்டூன்ஸ் போட்டா எவ்வளவு நேரம் வேணா உட்காருவான். அவங்க பேசுறான் உட்காடுறான், ஏன் சேஞ்ச் போறான். அவனை டெமோ கிளாஸஸ் கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 15 டெமோ கிளாஸஸ் அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணேன் நான், பெய்டு ஃப்ரீ எல்லாம் சேர்த்து. ஒரு டெமோ கிளாஸ்லயும் 15-20 மினிட்ஸ் மேல இருக்க மாட்டேன்றான். அதுவே அவனை நான் ஓடி போய் நான் புடிச்சுன்னு நான் உட்காந்தா மட்டும்தான் கொஞ்ச நேரம் இருக்கான். இல்லன்னா
But he is only 3 years, right? He is not even completing 3 years, right?
completed 3 years சுரேஷ்.
Completed 3 years.
ஆமா ஆமா.
கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டம் தான்.
உங்க பசங்க உட்கார்றாங்களா ஆன்லைன் கிளாஸஸ்லாம்?
பெரிய பண்ண ஓகே, பட் செகண்ட் ஒன் கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டம் தான். கிளாஸ் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகும்போது அந்த பெயின், இந்த பெயின், லெக் பெயின், டயர்ட்னஸ்.
சூப்பர். எப்படி இருக்கு சுரேஷ் ஒர்க் எல்லாம்?
ஒர்க் ஓகேடா. கொஞ்சம் ப்ரெஷர் இருக்கு, பட் ஓகே மேனேஜ் பண்ணலாம்.
ப்ரெஷர் எல்லாம் மதிக்கிறாளா சுரேஷ்? நீங்க அட போடான்னு தட்டி விட்டு போயினே இருக்கீங்க. நான் குடுக்குறப்பதான் கொடுப்பேன்னு வேற சொல்லுவீங்க. நீங்க உங்களை பார்த்துதான் அவங்க போய் பண்ணும்.
புரியல.
நான் குடுக்குறப்ப நான் குடுக்குறேன்னு தான் நீங்க சொல்லுவீங்க. ப்ரெஷர் எல்லாம் மதிக்கிறாளா நீங்க என்னன்னு கேக்குறேன்.
வேற ஆப்ஷன் இல்லையே. இப்போ ஆப்ஷன் இல்ல.
அப்படிங்களா?
டெலிவர் பண்ணிதான்.
நீங்க சொல்லலாம்ல, 1000 கதை சொல்லலாம். நீங்க இதாகும் அதாகும்
சொல்லுவேன், பட் அதே மாதிரி வரும் டாஸ்க்.
ஓகே ஓகே.
ராஜா சப்போர்ட் பண்றாரு. ஓகே ஓகே. ராஜா இஸ் சப்போர்ட்டிங் அவர் டீம். இஸ் சப்போர்ட் ஆல்சோ. அதனால பிரச்சனை இல்ல.
அப்ப பரவாயில்ல. ராஜா
we have Libin, even another team. He joined around 2 years back. ஐஜோ டீம்ல தான் இருக்கு.
யாரு? ஓ லிபியன். ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே. ஹாய் லிபியன்.
ஹாய் ஹாய் தினேஷ்.
என்னோட நெய்பர்.
ஓ அப்படிங்களா? சூப்பர் சூப்பர் சூப்பர். So he knows Tamil?
Tamil I can understand, bro. I cannot speak.
Because yeah, Mallu guys usually can understand Tamil. I know that. அப்புறம் சூரஜ் எல்லாரும் எப்படி இருக்காங்க? என்ன ரஞ்சித் பேப்பர் போட்டாரா?
ரஞ்சித் பேப்பர் போட்டாரு.
நான் 1 வீக் 10 டேஸ் முன்ன கூட பேசினேன். அதை பத்தி எதுவுமே சொல்லல. என்கிட்ட மட்டும் இன்புட் வாங்கிட்டு அவர் சும்மா விட்டாரு. நான் போட்டேன்டா அப்படின்னு சொல்ல ஒரு 6 மணி நேரம் பேசினாரு. பட் ஸ்டில் எதுவும் சொல்லல. சரி ஓகே. அது அவர் மறந்துட்டு இருப்பாரு. யூஸ்வலி சொல்லக்கூடாதுன்னா ஒன்னும் இல்ல, மறந்துருப்பாரு. எனக்கு ரஞ்சித் மாதிரி இல்ல. எதுவா இருந்தாலும் ஓப்பனா பேசுவார் ரஞ்சித். நமக்கு ஒன்னும் பிரச்சனை இல்லை, இருந்தப்பையும் சரி இல்லாதப்பையும்.
Anyway, I think it's not working for him. Point cross there is it's not working for him, so it's better to leave.
Correct சொல்றது. அவருக்கு பாயிண்ட் கிராஸ் செட் ஆகாது. ஜாயின் ஆன புதுசுலயே அவருக்கு தெரியும். சரி சம்பளம் கொடுக்குறாங்க, நான் இருக்கிறேன்னு சொல்லி இருக்கிறாரு, அவ்வளவுதான். ஓகே. என்ன எந்த கம்பெனி கிடைச்சது தெரியுங்களா?
இல்ல அது தெரியாது.
ஓகே ஓகே. கேட்டா சொல்லுவாரு. எதுக்கு அவர் போன அப்புறமே தெரிஞ்சுக்கலாம் என்ன இருக்கு. சொல்லாம எங்கேயோ ஒன்று அப்டேட் பண்ணதான் போறாரு. என்ன இருக்கு? சூரஜ் ஒரு 2 வாட்டி ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி கிடைச்சு சூரஜ். விசா டிக்ளைன் ஆயிடுச்சு சூரஜ். விசா ரிஜெக்ட் ஆயிடுச்சு. யூஎஸ் விசா. நம்ம எதுக்குன்னா அவன் கேக்குற கொஸ்டின் நம்ம சொன்னா கூட அவன் ரிஜெக்ட் தான் பண்றான். அவன் நிறைய ரிஜெக்ஷன்ஸ் நடக்குது சூரஜ். யூஎஸ் மட்டும் நடக்கும் சூரஜ். நான் ஒரு வாட்டி தான் ரிஜெக்ட் ஆச்சு, இன்னொரு போகலாம் அப்படின்றதுக்குள்ள எல்லாம் இந்த மாதிரி ஆயிடுச்சு. நான் கொஞ்சம் டிலே பண்ணேன். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ரிஜெக்ஷனுக்கு அப்புறம் ஒரு 3 months 6 months கேப் எடுக்கலாம். நான் 1 year கேப் எடுத்துட்டேன். அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்த இந்த ப்ராப்ளம் வந்துடுச்சு, போயிடுச்சு. இல்லைன்னா ஒரு 2 விசிட் அடிச்சிருப்பேன். 1 month விசிட். மணி மேட்டர் இல்ல, அங்க ஓசி போயிட்டு ஜாலியா என்ஜாய் பண்ணிட்டு வருவான்றதுதான் மேட்ரு. ஆமாமா, அதுல ஒண்ணும் சம்பாதிக்கலாம் போறதில்ல. காசு வந்தா கூட அந்த காசு எடுத்து போய் அங்கதான் செலவு பண்ணிருப்பேன் நானு. லைஃப் டைம்
அப்படிதான் இருக்கும்.
ஆமா,
அங்க போய் earn பண்ணனும்னா மினிமம் ஒரு 2 years நிக்கணும்.
ஆமா ஆமா ஆமா, நான் earning எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணல. அங்க போய் சம்பாதிக்கணும்ன்ற மாதிரிலாம் எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணல. பட் ஏன்னா எங்க ஃபேமிலியோட நல்லா இருக்கும். அங்க போய் ஏன் கஷ்டப்படணும்?
ஒரு மினிட் பிரவீன் கால் பண்றான்.
நோ ப்ராப்ளம், நோ ப்ராப்ளம்.
பிரவீன் சொல்றேன். ஆமா, சரி பரவாயில்ல. So we can have maybe 8686.
என்ன ஜாயின் ஆறானா பிரவீன்?
It is joining.
ஹூக்ஸும் லைஃப் சைக்கிள் ரெண்டும் முடிஞ்சிச்சா சூரஜ்? இல்ல அதுதான்
இல்ல, லைஃப் சைக்கிள் முடிஞ்சிச்சு. ஹூக்ஸ் he has not he gave an introduction but we didn't go deep into it.
Okay.
Yeah, we started but last 2 weeks தான் கொஞ்சம் கேப் இருக்கு.
Okay.
We started around 2 months back, but last 2 weeks we didn't continue class. And every day we are not practicing also. Every day we work on Century XT. So கொஞ்சம் delay இருக்கு. We are not able to seriously practice it.
சும்மா அட்லீஸ்ட் ஒரு சின்னதா ப்ராஜெக்ட் அது கிரியேட் பண்ணி ஜஸ்ட்
நாங்க வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். லைக் அட்லீஸ்ட் ரெட்எக்ஸ் அந்த ஸ்டேட்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்துருக்கு. ஆஃப்டர் கம்ப்ளீட்டிங் ரெட்எக்ஸ், ரைட்? And packaging. The packaging we are planning to use webpack and theming. So the idea is once we complete at least this basic knowledge, right? Basic things what is required for a project, we'll start something in point process. That's what we are planning.
Okay.
Java, Thiru, I don't think you are in contact, right? Vijay?
திரு கம்மி தான். திரு ஏதாச்சும் தேவைகள் இருந்தால் மட்டும்தான் திரு வருவான். விஜய் யாராவது அக்கேஷனலா கால் பண்ணுவான், இல்ல நான் பண்ணுவேன். ஜவா மந்த்லி ஒன்ஸ், அவ்வளவுதான். விஜய் எப்ப பார்த்தாலும் இருப்பான்.
நம்ம டாக்டர் சார்,
டாக்டர் பாவம், அவர் கதை ஏன் கேக்குறீங்க?
உனக்கு வந்ததா மெசேஜ் ரீசென்ட்லி?
எனக்கும் வந்தது. எனக்கு ரொம்ப நாளா வருது.
காசு கேட்டாங்களா?
ஆமா எனக்கு ரொம்ப நாளா வருது. பட்
அப்படி அவங்களுக்கு இஸ் வெல் ஆஃப் நோ இன் திஸ் ஃபேமிலி.
அவருக்கு வேலை போயிடுச்சு.
But he has some revenue from his farm, right? I don't know why is he asking.
அங்கேயும் ஒன்றும் இல்லை சூரஜ். இந்த சென்ஸ் இந்த கோவிட் பீரியட்ல அவங்களுக்கு அங்கேயும் அடி வாங்கியிருக்கு. அதை அவர் தம்பி தான் ஃபுல்லா மேனேஜ் பண்றாரு. அவரு அங்க ஏதாவது ஹெசிடேட் பண்றாரா இல்ல அவரு கெத்து காட்டுறாரு இல்லைங்களா? இருக்கிற இடத்துல கெத்து காட்டுறாரு. அவர்கிட்ட வாங்கணுமான்ற ஈகோவா என்னெல்லாம் நமக்கு தெரியாது. அவருக்கு கொஞ்சம் லோன்ஸ் இஎம்ஐஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கு. அங்க வாங்கி காட்டணும்னு அவருக்கு ஈகோ இருக்கலாம், எது வேணா இருக்கலாம். என்னவோ, ஆனா பட் இத்தனை பேரை கேட்பாருன்னு நான் எதிர்பார்க்கல. ஒருத்தரை விட்டா ராஜா ரமேஷ கூட கேட்டாரான்னு தெரியல எனக்கு.
என்கிட்ட கேட்டாரு. because I seldom talk to him, right? I don't talk to him much.
Correct, definitely. ஆமா.
So even I was very shocked.
அவர் எல்லாருமே HR விஜய் கூட கேட்டிருக்காரு ஃபோன் பண்ணி.
ஆமா,
HR விஜய் எனக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணி பேசுறாரு.
அவ்வளோ டெஸ்பரேஷனா?
என்னன்னே தெரியல சூரஜ். நம்ம ரொம்ப கேட்க போனோம்னா நம்ம பிரச்சனையே அதிகமா இருக்கு, நம்ம எங்க கேக்குறதுன்றது நான் ஹை லெவல்ல பேசிட்டு என்னென்ன இருக்குன்னு சொன்னேன், அவ்வளவுதான். என்கிட்ட அட்லாஸ்ட் ஒரு 20,000 கிடைக்குமா, ஒரு 10,000 கிடைக்குமான்ற அளவுக்கு எல்லாம் கேட்க ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டோம்.
Oh, really?
ஆமா.
But I don't know why he is not able to retain a job.
கிடைச்சிடுச்சு, ஜாயின் ஆகணும், அவ்வளவுதான்.
But அவங்களுக்கு கிடைச்சது, he was in Delhi, right? He was the head of that AI department, right?
அப்புறம் அங்க என்ன ஆவோ தெரியல, இங்க பாயிண்ட் காஸ்ட்ல பண்ண மாதிரி அங்கே ஏதாவது பண்ணிருப்பாரு. அவர் என்ன சொன்னார்னா கிட்ட 6 months ப்ராஜெக்ட் நாங்க 3 monthsல கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ணிட்டோம், பண்ணிட்ட உடனே அவங்க எங்களை பெஞ்ச்ல போட்டாங்க அப்படி இப்படின்னாரு. எனக்கும் தெரியும், பட் ஸ்டில் என்னன்னா
டெவலப்பர் இஸ் நாட் டெவலப்பர், இஸ் டேக்கன் as a head of AI, right? பெஞ்ச்ல போட முடியாது.
அவரு
something seriously wrong with him. I think என்ன attitude problem, mostly he has attitude issue.
ஆமா, அவர் கதை விடுறாருன்னு கூட அவங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும், ஒரு ஸ்டேஜ்ல நல்லா கதை விடுறாரு அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. மோஸ்ட்லி அந்த இடத்துல பிரச்சனை வந்திருக்கலாம், ஏன்னா நல்லா வாய் பேசுவார், நடக்காத ஒண்ணு நடந்த மாதிரியும் பேசுவார் நல்லா. அது பண்ணிடலாம், இது பண்ணலாம், எல்லாம் தெரியும் எல்லாம் தெரியும் பண்ணு சொல்லியிருப்பாரு. எங்கேயாச்சும் அங்க அடி வாங்கியிருக்கேன். நல்ல பொசிஷன்ல தான் போனார், ஆனா ஒன்னும் சொல்ல முடியாது. பட் இப்போதைக்கு ஏதாவது ஜாப் இருக்கு அவருக்கு, ஜாயின் ஆகணும் அப்படின்னு சொன்னாரு. சரி கங்க்ராட்ஸ் சொல்லி ஓகே அப்படின்னு சொல்லி பேசிட்டேன். ப்ரொஃபஸரா இருந்தாரு அங்கே கூலா.
I think for him being a professor will work out better.
Correct, அது work out ஆகும்.
That is the right career for him. He can use his knowledge. Other companies he has to work under someone. That I don't think he'll be able to, because he is too much கொஞ்சம் எஜுகேஷன் நிறைய இருக்குல்ல. So he has that அவங்க தலையில இருக்காரு, நான் கொஞ்சம் படிச்சாலும் இவராளி
அந்த இடத்துல ஒரு ஆட்டிட்யூட் இருக்கு.
அதான் பிரச்சனை.
ஆமா, ப்ரொஃபசர் தான் கரெக்ட்டா இருக்கும், ஏன்னா
ப்ரொஃபசர் தான் கரெக்ட்டா இருக்கும். மேனேஜ்மென்ட் he can do something of his own otherwise. Some research or something that will really work out well.
ஆமா,
இப்போ நான் ப்ரொஃபசருக்கும் சீனியர் ப்ரொஃபசர்ஸ்லாம் இருக்கு, மினிமம் 12-14 பேக்கேஜ் இருக்கு.
No, when he was a professor he was getting 20.
Oh, super, na?
அவருக்கு அதிகமான ஆசைகள், கார்ப்பரேட்டுக்கு போகணும், திருப்பியும் ஃபாரின் போகணும், அங்க ஏர்ன் பண்ணணும், ஏர்ன் பண்ணிட்டு வந்து கல்யாணம் பண்ணணும், எல்லாம் இருக்கு இல்லையா இருக்கும். இதுக்கு மேல என்ன கல்யாணம் பண்ணி என்ன பண்ண போறான்னு கேட்டா ஒன்னும் கேட்டா
45, he's 44, right?
சூரஜ், நான் ஒரு 5 years முன்ன அவருக்கு ஒரு பாலிசி 44 சூரஜ். எப்படி பார்த்தாலும் இப்ப 47-48 வந்திருக்கும். இன்னும் அவரோட லைஃப் ஸ்பேனே ஒரு 10 வருஷம் தான், இதுக்கு மேல என்ன பண்ண போறாரு?
இப்ப எங்க இருக்க நீ? ஊர்ல எங்க பெங்களூர்ல இருக்கியா?
நான் பெங்களூர் வந்திருந்தேன் சூரஜ், லாஸ்ட் மந்த் எல்லாம் இருந்திருந்தாங்க. இப்ப கொஞ்சம் அக்கேஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருந்தது, லாஸ்ட் ஒரு 10 days சுத்தினே இருந்தேன். எல்லாம் முடிச்சுட்டு இப்ப வேலூர்ல இருக்கேன்.
வேலூர். I don't think Praveen is joining. Okay, we'll call him again.
சரி சூரஜ்.
I think
அப்ப திருப்பி நாளைக்கு கனெக்ட் பண்றது.
Usually we connect on Saturday. Saturday இல்லனா we connect on Sunday. Anyway, it's only 1 hour, right?
Either a day, அவ்வளவுதானா?
I was one of the day, yeah. Only 1 day per week.
Okay. So 1 hour போகுங்களா 2 hours போகுங்களா?
Usually 2 hours போகும்டா. 2 hours போகும். ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணா 2 hours போகும் easily.
Okay, fine.
And we have the Udemy, we have this account. Udemy நிறைய courses இருக்குல்ல.
ஆமா.
So we all have an account. So we share, we have taken some courses.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want, we'll share the details with you also.
Okay.
நிறைய courses எடுத்துருக்கோம். So most of them are very useful.
Okay, எனக்கு வாட்ஸ்அப்லயே அனுப்புங்க சார். எனக்கு வந்து ப்ளூரல் சைட் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. பட் என்னன்னா அது மேனேஜர் அப்பப்ப ஓபன் பண்ணி எவ்வளவு ட்ரைனிங்ஸ் எடுத்திருக்கேன்னு பாப்பான். அது ஒண்ணுதான் எனக்கு பிரச்சனை. இத்தனை நாள் அவன் பண்ணல அந்த மாதிரி. இப்ப ரீசனால ஒரு சைல்டிஷா பிஹேவ் பண்றான். ஸோ வாட் ரைட் யூ ஆர் டேக்கிங் ஆர் நாட், வேர் யூ ஆர் லாகிங், கொஞ்சம் மைக்ரோ மேனேஜ்மெண்டா ஓடுது. இப்போ யூஎஸ் மேனேஜர் இருக்க வரைக்கும் எனக்கு பிரச்சனை இல்லாம இருந்தது. இந்தியன் மேனேஜர் ஆனதுல இருந்து கொஞ்சம் இல்ல ரொம்ப பிரச்சனையா இருக்கு.
That is because இப்போ கொஞ்சம் work from home scenario வேற இருக்குல்ல, so people don't know whether they are working or not. That's why every time they keep checking. That is one issue.
தெரியும் உங்களுக்கு எவ்வளவு ஒர்க் லோட் பண்றாங்கன்னு எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியும். என்னன்னா எங்களுக்கு ஸ்க்ரம் தான் நாங்க அஜய் தான் ஃபாலோ பண்றோம். ஸோ 2 வீக் ஸ்ப்ரிண்ட் இருக்கும் எங்களுக்கு. அதனால அவங்க லோட் பண்றோம்னு கூட அவங்களுக்கு தெரியும். பட் ஸ்டில் என்னவோ அதுவும் வேணும் இதுவும் வேணும் எல்லாம் வேணும்னுவாங்களே அந்த மாதிரி. அவ்வளவுதான். ஜாயின் ஆயிட்டான்.
Suraj, what I was telling is you have to tell the React in certain cases that how it can handle is using the key property. So that means that let's say you have data and you are pushing a data for every time, right? So I think this thing
what was that key property?
But let's see, let me do one thing. Does it work? We'll see. What data is getting fired?
No, refresh agala proper cache.
Yeah, I'm just checking. You guys see, right? So if you see the painting flash, right? You remember the rendering painting flash, right? So what's happening? So what we are actually trying to tell the React that React has to find, because in a React you have multiple elements, right? Because even though you are developing a simple pieces of code, imagine when you have a big application, you have a plenty of DOM elements and all that, right? So you have to also help the React that this can be re-rendered, this cannot, and all that. Okay. It's like from a developer perspective, you have to help the React that you have to provide some sort of way to React understand this is already there in a UI or something like that, right?
Okay, so this is the issue this is one of the issues that you were telling me the other day, right? When you use a third-party library who is not managing the DOM, right? For example, D3 or jQuery.
Yeah. D3 also you have to provide a key. Because whenever you are creating SVG, see, that's what even today you guys are doing with your Sencha also. You guys are taking automatically generated Sencha ID, on top of it you guys are updating, right? Similarly, so even the React also requires some sort of things to provide to understand whether to prevent the re-rendering or continue the re-rendering and all that. So these are some basic as well as some advanced concepts altogether, right? Now you could say, okay, already it knows the data, right? Now what happens if I don't provide a key? Yeah, still it works, but it gets re-rendered for no use, right? So it cannot automatically add the key. That is up to you. You can add a key by yourself.
Okay.
So such sort of things you have to do. Now coming back to the question, when there is a React.memo, when there is a pure component, why I have to handle the should component and update? Yeah, that's right. See, you know your component what is going to do by yourself, right? You won't be writing button component inside another component. You will be writing button only as a button component. You will be writing text area as a text area component, right? You won't mix up the components like a nesting components one inside another, like a DOM element, right?
Yeah.
So you know it. So when you know it, you don't have to use a React.pure component. When you know it, you don't have to use memo, right? So what I was trying to tell you is everything come with a benefit, also come with a performance bottleneck. Because if you think when you use a pure component, it automatically executes the should component method, right? In many of the cases, you don't want that method to fire. That method firing also some sort of millisecond issue on a performance, right? Even the memo also, what it does, it's memoizing. You know the memoizing function, right? Imagine you are creating a counter and like you are creating a sum for two numbers and you are giving the same number again and again. You don't want to calculate the third time or fourth time or fifth time because you have to the first time also calculated and you saved in your cache, right? So certain things comes in a concept like a memoizing. Memoizing provide a way that improve your performance, right? Similarly, here also this React memo. Or call hello. ஆமாந்தேன ஒரு 5 நிமிஷம் நான் கூப்பிடுறேன் ஒரு 10 நிமிஷம் okay so these are there. Okay, so there are some unexpected thing can happen with respect to React. Okay, you will experience. So this is one among things. Okay, so that's all about short things what we know. See how you can replicate this component will unmount. Okay. Okay, I'll tell you because this is what I said how to do it, right? Oh my god. Okay, let's say I will render this title component on basis of some sort of event, you could say, right? This is the functional component, right?
Yeah.
I'll say show props, show title, right? So when I have a show title, then I will show this title, else I won't show. Okay. So whenever you are writing a thing, you have to wrap it in the curly parenthesis. We know it.
Right.
So we'll do this, else it will throw an error. Okay. So now thing. Okay. In the this is an app component, right? This test C. So we'll say show what is that title, right? So we'll have a button for this somewhere below that. We'll have a button. We'll have on click and we'll say like this, and we'll say set show title. Okay, for that I will use another context title, show title, whatever I'll do. By default I'll say false or true, right? I'll pass show title equal to true. Then I'll say set, what is that, what is set, what is the method, show title, right? I'll say show title. Show title, I'll use the negation of the title. Will it work? What is this? Okay, I have to name this show title, I title. Is it not re-rendering? Okay, is it a negation of this? Double negation we have to do. One second. Show title is coming. Okay, so this is an object, so we have to destructure this. Hey, one more thing, when you are learning React, right? We definitely have to understand the EC, what is it? ECMS script, ES6.
Yes.
I title.
அது எதுக்கு parenthesisல கொடுக்கிறோம் பிரவீன்?
This is a destructuring. So props will say props dot show title. Props is an object. Okay, you have that. I title என்ன பண்ணுது அதான் நம்ம பார்க்கணும். I title தேவையில்லாம இன்னும் பண்ணுதுங்க. Title இப்போ போயிடுச்சா? It's gone, right? Now let me go to the title component. So you know use effect is a combination of component did mount, component did update, component will unmount, right? Right? Yeah. So in order to use a use effect at the with all the variation, So if you use this without, because use effect has a two argument, one is this, second one is a dependency list, as we already know.
Yes.
When you provide an empty dependency list, this method will get fired only once, right? I mean, what is a dependency list is that state information or a props information, this thing will get listened to. For example, you want to execute component update every time, right? Because component update will fire every time whenever the component state is getting changed, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So how do class component, so functional component knows that it has to re-render. So it has to know, you have to pass a variable to that. So let's say, imagine now I'll pass one variable. Let's say s comma set is something I'll do. Okay. Now I'll say use effect, use counter, or sorry, use state, right? See, this is out of the box. This junk is coming. Okay. So let's say 0. Whenever I pass this inside this, right? Imagine, right? Whenever I pass as a dependency, as a use effect callback function, this is the first argument. This is the second argument. Okay. Whenever there is a change with the state variable, right? This will get called every time. Okay. So one more thing also I have to tell, use effect, you can use any number of use effect inside your code. There is no restriction that you have to have only one use effect. So this may be used for only in case of component mount, right?
Yeah.
Only one time. Let's say you are getting a data, and this will be component update, right? Because you are providing a dependency list. Component,
Get calls every time.
This will call whenever the component is getting updated, right?
Yeah.
And inside a use effect, you have one thing called return statement. You have to return some function to that. So this is called your cleanup function. This is called component will unmount. Will unmount. Okay. Now let us log everything. Okay.
Naveen, in this component unmount, the second parameter argument won't be there, right?
No. See, in use effect, you can register your cleanup function. Okay, I'll tell you. Okay. See, what is it? Component did mount. You don't want to register the
unmount. For unmounting, no need to give that second argument, right?
See, it's nothing like that. Okay, use effect is a lifecycle loop for a functional. If you return a callback function, that will be executed whenever the component getting destroyed. 1 second, I'll tell you. See, it's not like not required. Okay, even you can have a, let's say, destroyed to. I'll write all the three function. Okay. This is one without, this is executed every time, right? Without a dependency list, right? And this is going to get executed for
that's what I said. Now you have removed that array, right? For unmount, to remove that second argument. That's what I'd say.
No, that's what I'm telling. It is not like you have to remove. If you provide a second this one, right, return function, no matter what, whether you write it for mount or unmount or whatever the phase may be, this will get executed. That's what I'm trying to tell you. See, if you see in all of the three events, I'm writing destroy function, right?
Okay.
So one with the only one time it is going to execute, and there also I'm attaching function. This is another one I'm writing for state change. This is another one I'm writing for every time, right? You guys understood what I said? Okay.
Third one confused.
Okay. See, use effect has a three variation as like this, right?
Yes. Component mount, update, as well as unmounting.
So Suraj, if you guys don't understand what is a use effect is a lifecycle hook for your functional component. Functional component has no hook like a component did mount, component will unmount.
Yeah, that understood. Yeah.
So use effect is going to help you to provide all the hook for you. Okay. Use effect has a three variation. One with empty dependency list. This is called. Another one is dependency list. So when I say list, it is like you can add n number of things. in any of one is getting updated, this will get re-rendered. You have to imagine that, right? There is other one without a dependency list, right? Cool, right? So we have destroy 1, destroy 2, destroy 3. Okay, let's see. Let's log it out.
First one is first one is not destroyed, right? It is you are mounting, right?
No, wait. Let's say high title.
That's what he's trying to say.
See, all this will get executed. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
You understand what is happening? See, it's no matter what. See, this use effect is same as this use effect, and this use effect is same as this use effect. When you say use effect, you see the out of the box code which snippet is getting created. You see how it is creating? Use effect is a function. I accepted 2 arguments. One is a function itself as a callback function. Other one is dependency list, right? So inside this, you can write any number of your functional like your comparison or execution, logging, Ajax, call, you can write.
Okay.
And also you can register one return function that will use for cleanup, right? So this one you understood right now, right? This is the basic syntax. Now we use all the 3 variation. One is without a dependency list, that is the empty array. So that means whenever a component is getting loaded for the very first time, this will get executed, right?
Only
and
once.
whenever there is a component change, this also will get executed. I mean state change. And this will be executed for no matter what, for every re-rendering cycle. Re-rendering cycle in the sense whenever there is a component is getting prop is getting passed, something counter is getting updated. Okay, wow. See, you can write any number of use effect inside your functional component to serve different purposes. It's not necessary. You could have only one use effect, so that will handle all your processing. So the main purpose is writing a clean code, right? You don't want to confuse things in between with this and another one, right? So sometimes you may wanted to write something separately, something you wanted to execute all the time, something you wanted to execute only for the first time, right? And something you execute only for every state update, right?
Yeah.
So this is same as a class. Class is having a component that mount, this one, component that update, this one, right? This one is every render cycle. This is nothing like anything equivalent, but this is getting called every time when your component is getting rendered, right? So altogether, you can provide your callback function. All the callback function, that is return function, will be captured for this component, and that will get executed whenever a component is getting destroyed. Destroyed is very simple, as such that it is getting removed from the DOM. Okay, imagine you keep eye on this. Where is this component is there? This is the title component, right? You see, when I do the high title, that is gone. You see? So it's physically removing. The physical removement leads to a component will unmount, that called, and that will get out.
That's a 3.
Right. So there are few takeaways here. Use effect, as I said, can write any number of use effect according to your purpose. So as like in a class component, you'll have only one component will unmount, because that's what it is, right? So this is the beauty of this one. Okay. Okay.
One doubt.
Yeah.
So that usage effect is controlled by the second argument, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Controlled. See, that's what it is. Something a function, man. You could say it's a function is going to be get executed when, at what time, right? When you provide no dependency list as an empty array, it will execute for the very first time. This is component with mount phase. In class component, there is a component with mount. That means, see, component with mount, very simple. Okay, you take your JSX and you place it in this DOM. This is what component with mount.
Yeah. Okay.
Component will unmount. It's like remove this DOM from here. So one thing you guys have to understand that React is automatically taking care of this DOM manipulation, right? Whenever you are using a jQuery or something like a D3 or something which handles the DOM by itself, you have to be very careful. You understood? Like a document.append child, document.remove child, clear, setting inner HTML, all that will be automatically handled by React. So you have to know that whether you have to do that or not. Okay, that's the one takeaway. Okay, so now, so these all about your mounting phase, this one, and then your updating phase should snapshot, did update and all that. So that's what we've seen, and then we know what is higher order components also. Higher order component takes a is a function first of all. Whenever someone asks you what is higher order function, a component, higher order component as well as higher order function always a function. The word function in higher order differentiate the things. What is the argument? Higher order function takes the function as argument. Higher order component takes the component as an argument. End of the day, both are functions, right? Cool. So then we've seen this React router, and I think some people have missed out. I don't know who all they. I think Libin has missed out the routing part.
Yeah.
Right. Dinesh, I will take you separately on this part. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So what
Or
I
I
want.
can share the video with Dinesh also. We have the recording.
Okay. Cool.
But
Okay.
I'll find out a way to share it.
Okay. Now there are few questions, right? So this is what the session I wanted to have today. One is the ref. Okay. So whenever you are creating a component, you are assigning ID, it's all fine, and managing ID is another hectic task. And have so in order to remember that, you have to create a variable and save on all that, right? I mean, creating ID, and then so what I'm saying is, imagine you are creating this div, right? And here you are creating some h1 tag, imagine, right? And you will assign some ID or some name, some class or whatever, right? So why you use that? Whenever in your user file, imagine, right? You want to attach some event listener. Until unless your DOM is your JSX is converted to DOM, you cannot access this. Am I right? Your
Yeah.
JSX is the actual string like that. It's an argument to a function. This is something like a function. This is called, right? Until it comes to the UI as a DOM, you cannot attach event or remove event, and you cannot beautify, change the style or nothing, right?
Yeah.
So in order to do that, basically what we done is we use ID property, and let's say my h1, right? So what we'll do, we'll say hello, and then what we'll do, we'll come back here. This is a component it mount face. I'll say document dot get element by or query selector. All we know, right? We query selector will do, we get that ID when do attach event and all that, right? So this is kind of a unwanted process, because queries your entire DOM. Maybe since it is a DOM is a tree by structure, even though it is hitting the performance, right? While querying, you have to carefully do that.
Yes.
So what is the React is going to provide you out of the box is something called refs. Okay. So
Okay.
there is something called refs, which is there as what I shown here. So this is something you can use like this react.create ref. Okay. And this is in a class-based component. Let me use a functional component, because we have a functional component. So use ref. Where is the use ref? Yep. So you have to import use ref as a null. So what you have to do is, in order to use the use ref, you have to import a use ref, right? And you can say what you can say const h1 element will say h1 element is it h1 element is equal to we do this by default. It takes this one, okay, h1 element. Then inside your h1 element, what you can do is you can pass ref as a key, okay, and you pass your reference, okay. So let me put a debugger here. Let's see what you get as a h1 element. Will that work? Let me go there. What is this? Okay, so if you see, you have this, right? h1 h1 dot current. If you do, you will get it. This is nothing but your h1 element, right?
That is the JSX actually, right?
That is actual JSX, but you have easily are able to get it, right? So this is what we call as a refs. So that used for managing a focus. Imagine you have an input element, right? You have the
This is
ref.
like a reference in EXJS, the component reference we have, right? We create reference.
Yeah. But in EXJS, you'll get the component itself. You have to use this dot dom dot el or this dot el, something like that, right? So this
To
is
get
your
the DOM, yeah, but this is more like a reference only, yeah.
reference only, yeah. But actually, if you're taking the Sencha, that's why I said that is a DOM. This is a DOM EL. In React Sencha, it is a EL. This is a ref here. Okay. So basically, why we use a ref? Maybe we are once you hold the element, you can add the event listener, mouse event, or anything, attach that and all that. Okay. Also, in class-based component, you can use a create ref, react.create ref, and all the activity is the same because you are attaching to this, and you can attach to this my ref. That's all this one, right? Is it the first?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is another concept called forwarding a ref. Okay. So far, so now we have access to the current thing. What do you say? So you are creating a component here and you are having a reference here, right? What if I wanted to hold the reference of other component as into this H1?
Okay.
If you take the consideration from here, right? Title is having its own ref. Am I right? Right. But imagine I want the reference of this button, you could say. I want the reference of this div, you could say. But this is sitting inside some other component, right? In order to do that, you will do it here by adding the use ref. But how you exchange this into this, right? Sometimes you may need that also. You need a reference of another component's DOM element to your current component, right? That concept is called forwarding a ref. Okay. So how the forwarding ref looks like? So imagine, I think this is what a forwarding ref I have. Okay, ref forwarding a ref. Okay, advanced concept, ref forwarding. So you could see there is a button, right? This is nothing, right? Do you see there is something called this also I wanted to tell. There is something called prop.children. Okay. Did I told you this what is prop.children?
Is the child items?
See, prop.children is nothing here. So what do you say? When you say div, this H1 is a children.
And if
Right?
I have multiple, you get all the children.
Yes. For example, this is the wrapper component. Okay. This is a title. Okay. Here I'm passing. Let's say here I'm passing. Let's say H2. I am children. I'm a child. Okay. But now if you see this UI, will that show title expected assembly function called Sonic something? What is this? Actually expected unused. Is it this because of this? Oh yeah. What is this? Where is it? Where I did? Is it because of this? Okay. Sorry. I think that is a fundamental problem. What we do here is this. Unwanted declaration also throwing an error, is it? Okay, cool. So what I was saying is now you could wrap something inside this. Okay, I am a child too. But if you notice, that is not getting added here, right? I'm child is not getting added because title component does not receive anything, right? Props at all. If you say props and if you wrap this props as a props.children, now you may end up seeing that. You see? So this is called a children property. Okay. So you can pass any JSX inside and any component, then you can access using a props.children. So the DOM. So now you have an idea what is a props.children, right?
Yeah.
So props is something what you pass here, right? As a property, right? Where props.children something wrapped inside that component. That's what you have to remember, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so now coming to the forward ref. So now you understood what is this button going to do. This button is something a fancy button, so that receives some props, and that has some button that returns a button, some wrapping DOM element as a props.children. No fundamental magic here, right? Now you see what we are doing. Now we are creating a fancy button, right? And we are accepting the ref and passing that ref to this. Now see. So instead of creating a component like that, we are creating component by wrapping React.forward ref, passing a props and ref, right? Then we are creating React.create ref and passing that ref to fancy button. So now this ref will have the reference to this button.
All the children also. Okay.
Yes, I mean the button itself. When you have the button, you have the children also, right?
Yeah.
So this is the what is that forward ref does. I mean, so you can create a ref inside your component and you can pass the ref variable to other component. Other component wraps your component with forward ref and returns your reference back to the called component. You could say that way. It may be little confusing but understandable and all that. Maybe you can try hands-on.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah. So that's all about ref. Mostly rare to use the forward ref, more to use refs actually, right? Okay, so now this is what I wanted to take. This is one of the good thing to understand and talk about. One is context API. Now imagine, so if you take a big application, you have a user information, right? Let's say user is authenticated because you have to log the user has to log in, then only will allow the user to access some resources or something like that, right? And also imagine your site is having a theme information, dark theme or light theme or something like that, right? So imagine, so now we learn something called state and props, right? This user authentication information may be provided in the login component, right? And you maybe keep passing the prop to child component. Let's say this is your parent, right? The parent is holding the user is logged in or not and holding the theme information. So imagine the F component has to receive that. So what you have to do? You have to pass props to C, C to E, E to F. Let's say D needed and you have to pass B to D. And A is not required, you could say. Okay, imagine that way. So now there are few things that are unnecessary here, right? If you see, you C doesn't require, E doesn't require, only F requires. So it is not unnecessary to pass the props to drill down to the all the way to F and to tell, okay, take this theme and make your color as a dark blue, I mean black or white, right? Background color.
Yeah.
So this is the fundamental problem with the React. It's called props drilling. So Context API is a out of the box React one, provides a way you can create such sort of information separately, and you can directly use it here without passing as a props to each levels. So problem statement is clear. So this is a simple information that now username is required by ADF. Still you are passing this way. Okay. So some sort of examples like user information or a theme or any global informations or such sort, it has to be passed, right? Okay, cool. So let us set up mindset like that. Okay. Now how to achieve this? Okay. So there are 3 steps. One is we have to create a context and you have to provide a context, then you have to consume a context. Okay. So what is meant by creating a context? So what is meant by creating context is, so let us create a new project altogether. Everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead. Let's create a npx or create-react-app. Let's do this context example. Hello. Hey, I'm lost.
No problem. Carry on.
Let's go to your working directory and create an app.
We can see your PPT. That's it. Still you are in PPT, right?
I'm in PPT only, but anyhow, I already created an app. If it is take a longer time, I think it's better to create app. Now, other than me, everyone having a broadband, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
are connected to mobile internet.
Okay, then you don't have to create. Will you able to follow up if I say?
Yeah, yes, I think. Yeah, that is better. Anyway,
Okay,
you're
so,
sharing all this, right? You're putting this into GitHub, right? Praveen, all these things. Even if it is incomplete.
I'll update it. My
Yeah.
commit also I'll update it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So imagine this is my context app, but that's what I'm just debugging so far. So if you see hello world, I'm child and all that. So I'll go to app.js. Okay. So I'll get rid of this return. I'll get back to other return. Okay. I'll uncomment it. Okay. So as I said, the first step is create context. Create context is coming from React. So you have to import a create context, right? So you have to import a create context and use it, forget it. So you have to create a context by calling a function. Okay. Hello.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So do you know what is this export const instead of default?
We can access to other files.
Yeah. So this is named export, what we call when you don't say export default, this is called named export. So that means the difference between named export and this one is, so here create context is a named export. So whenever you want to use with the same name, okay, you are exporting with this name. So you have to consume with this name in other application, other files or other components. Okay. So the first step, what we said, you have to create context using react.create context, right? So either you can do like this react dot what is this, something always problem, the plugins எல்லாமே இப்படி தான் ஆகுது. So either you can call react dot create context or create context, because I have already exported as a named one, so I'm using this. Okay. Now imagine I have a two context. One is a theme context, another one is user context. Okay. So by default, what I set is forget it. This is fine. Okay, this is just forget it. So the first step, what we did is you have to create a context and you have to name it theme context. Let's say you export it. Okay. So first step is done. The second step is provider. So what is a provider is? A provider is, you have to use it like this: your context name and dot provider. Okay. And you have to wrap your entire app with this. I mean, if you take the PPT, your root app component is a root component, right? So now this is your app component. That app.js is your app component. So what you have to have is you have to wrap that using the context. So you can use n number of contexts and you have to wrap it accordingly. So since you created two contexts, what I did, I have created user context dot provider and I provided a value as a PK. Okay. And then again I created another context called theme provider, and the value was I provided as a theme and some function to toggle the theme. Okay. This is why, because in some other place I wanted to have some button that will change over light to dark. Yeah. So imagine now this is our UI. Let's see how this is looks. Oh God, 1 second.
వాడితో భద్రమ్మ
1 second. 1 second. 1 second. See now, green toggle green. It's already toggled green. What is that error? You cannot update a component while rendering different child to locate a set child called inside child follow stack. Cannot see. Okay, what is this child? Okay, toggle green, background gray, இதெல்லாம் fine. User context, okay. என்ன சொல்லுறான்? Cannot update a component app while re-rendering a different component to locate a bad set state child inside of this. Oh, do you know this? Do you know what happened? Okay, now I toggle to green. Did you see what happened? See, by default, I created a context in app.js, right? With a value. Okay. This can be anything. Even you can pass a state information also. Imagine you are creating a state like this, right? Theme. That's what I'm pushing, right? And I'm using a set theme, right?
Yeah.
I'm passing a theme value as a argument as well as a function to toggle the theme, right? So when I pass this to a child as a, because I'm using a child, this one, right? What I can do is I can export, I mean import it using, because these two are declared inside the app only, right? So how I declared, I created a export const only, right? So named export. So then I'm using a child as a named import, right? So this is the one way. It's a very, very easiest way. We are doing like this only. Okay. But what is the other way is, so far in the step, what we seen, two things only. What we did, we created a context using react.create context, right? And then we provided a value. This is the value will be used as a kind of a exchange value, like a theme value, user information,
Some information, yeah.
some information, right? So it is an object. You have to remember, it's not something like a value. Even you can pass a value also. It can be string also. This will depend upon your usage. Okay. And then there is something called consume context, right? So then there is a provider, there should be a consumer, right? So then what we have to do is, imagine, let us delete this for now. So when we have a theme context dot provider, then we have theme context dot consumer, right?
Okay.
So theme context dot consumer, you have to wrap it using like this first. Okay. Then there is a function. Okay. Then the context, what is the context we are getting? So go and see what is your theme context is having. Theme context is having two things, themes comma toggle theme, right? Two things. So you have to destructure that inside your thing. So what you have to do, you have to say theme comma toggle, the same name, right? Now what you have to do is, one second. So this is a function. Now you have to return, right? What you have to return? You have to return some JSX h1. Is it right first? Okay. Once again, this is fundamentally right. It should be right only. This is fine now. Now let's say return, right? We'll return the JSX div. Let's say theme, right? Will that display? Let's see what happens. Child was nothing, return render usually means return statement is nothing or render nothing to null. Okay, cool. So what it says, you have to get this context consumer. Okay, sorry, you have to return this. This is fundamentally confusing. Okay, that is why use that. Now you see you have a light, right? So this is quite easy, right? You use the use context hook for the, this is a functional one, because you have to remember one thing, you cannot use the functional hooks into a class. Okay.
Okay.
So that is a, that design, like a use state you can't use inside your class based component, likewise.
Okay.
Right? So now imagine you used only the theme context, right? Provider, right? I mean the consumer. Since you created and use a provider, I'll go back again because things may be confusing. You have created a context using create context, both the context, and you provided a value for both the context. One is a PK username, and another is a theme and toggle theme function, right? So that's what we did, and we come back to child component. We use the consumer dot consumer one, right? Now we have to use user context also, right? Let's see how going to be confusing this now. Imagine again what you have to do, you have to use user context dot consumer, right? So again, what you have to do, you have to wrap this using a curly parenthesis, and you have to have a function that will have a user, right? And then this function is a function that will be done, and then you have to use this return into that return. Too confusing, right? The writing.
So
So that,
writing, yeah, you need to be
and
that
some
way.
point in time, this seems to be not working for me. I don't know why, but this is how you have to write. I'll figure it
Mm.
out.
Okay.
So if you have multiple contexts, right, you end up like wrapping one context in other one, other context in other one. Then you keep chaining the properties, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. This is a way you write a context and provider and the consumer. Now, if you see any component in the given chart, right? If there is a D is changing the theme, and A and F will get updated because they're listening to the context, right?
Okay, Praveen. So in this, instead of you are doing the same thing, right? Again, so again you are creating a context. You are passing from one place to other.
Wait,
Why can't?
but we are not passing as a props.
Right.
We are not passing a prop here.
We
We are
are not
simply,
passing a.
that's what, right? See, imagine your components are 10 level deep, right? The 10th level needs your username. Then you have to keep passing a props here, username, and have to use it. Now, with the context API, what you did, you never pass the props. You created a context over there, and you imported a context here, and you consumed it here.
Okay.
That's it. So only thing is, that's what the problem statement we told, that props drilling solution. Digging to a props to someone to tell this has been changed or not. Okay. So then we seen something called
So the
memo.
issue right now we are facing is when multiple contexts are there, we need to figure out what is going wrong here, right? In the
Yeah,
consumer.
that's
Yeah.
what.
Okay.
See, one thing I'll tell you, if we are starting a React today, you have a lot of things to feel happy. One is you don't need to use class component as a many. Okay. You can use only single class component. Let's say you have 100 components as a piece, you can use only single component as a class, and the remaining 99 are functional. Okay. Now a question comes to us, why one class also, right? Because we have all the hooks and we have everything with a class function, and function is very neat, right? Because this consumer is very complicated, right? In other way, if you use the use context, this is becoming very straight, right? If you see, I can use the use context hook, right? If you see, this is very straight. You can say return, you can say let's say div, and you say user hyphen. See how many lines of code we lost now. We have everything PKLite, right? So that is the beauty of your functional component. Now coming back to the question, okay, 99 functional component and one class. Why that, right? Even though all the events are available in class as well as in functional, but there are still one thing is not there and shift to a functional, that is component did catch. Okay, this hook I never told you. Imagine whenever you are using a Flipkart or an application, sometimes you encounter hoop, there is something has happened on the back, right? Some error, something is some Ajax call failed, right? Imagine you are making some Ajax call, you are loading this, right? Load mask. Hello.
Yes, I'm understanding. I think Surya is muted.
Okay. So what I was saying, whenever you are making Ajax call, sometimes your Ajax call may fail. Okay. And imagine you are doing some complex operation, and that may lead to some sort of a breaks in between, right? So that time you have to show an error in this UI, say that the Ajax call has been failed.
Yeah.
Even though you have you can do that in a different way also. Like imagine you are making Ajax call, how you do Ajax call as a 3-part, right? One is loading phase. You can create a const loading and set loading using a state, use state. by default it is loading false because you are not initiated Ajax call, right?
Yeah.
And then you can have one more state, const data comma set data, right? This is to once after Ajax call is over, use state empty array because we never had anything. Then we have a const error and we have a set error,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we'll have false. Now imagine you are making a fetch request, right? HTTP fetch one, right? So what you can do is you can write fetch the URL and then you have a catch because the fetch is a promise.
Correct.
So you will say when there is error, you will say set error of error, imagine. And when you have a data, you have a response, right? When you have a response, then you have a response.json is another promise. Then again, you have to add one more then you'll get a data here and you'll say set data. So we covered all that, right? So we didn't have one more thing. So whenever you're making inside your function, you'll say set loading true, right? You'll have a load mask. When your data comes or failure happens, you call set loading false and false. So this is how it happens, right? So we understood. So how we make a call starting from loading page and then adding a data and error and all that, right? This is handling at the component level is fine, right? But each level also we might handle it. But in between your JavaScript code itself breaks, you tell me. You might return it for some reason. It is expecting data.id. There is no data.id. Sometimes or keep loading, right? Or Ajax call.
Yeah.
Right? It never close the load mask because of the DOM failure or something. So these are some sort of window.on error, right? You could say when there is error in your window object, you have to say something happened in your application. You have to break the application, say that user, please reload application to start from the beginning, right? So those there is a hook called component did catch. Okay, in React for a class component only that is there. Component did catch. That is called error boundaries. Suraj, are you there?
Yeah.
So there is something called component did catch. Whenever your component is bound to errors, and you can catch the error using this method only. So okay.
So this need not be just a React error, right? Any error within the page, right?
Yes, yes.
Any error within the component. It can be a JavaScript or the React base or whatever it is.
Any error. So when this is again you have to wrap your component in the error boundary. So always the wrapping matters, okay? You have to wrap it in order. You remember router also you have to wrap it properly, right? So this is only available in your class, not a functional. But someone asked, component did catch in functional. How did they? I never know. I never had this. As mentioned already, React has not yet implemented hook equivalent, and there are no published timeline for the hook implementation. That's what it is, right? So error boundary, use error boundary. There is no such thing. So, but look like there are some third party. I don't know why. So that is one thing. And so this one we've seen what is a pure component. It implements should component update by itself, but it does the shallow comparison, right? And we know what is a memo. Memo is a higher order function that does memoizing your component, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So I think I'll stop it from here. I think some questions you guys have, you can ask me.
So for using error boundaries, we have to use class components, right?
Sorry?
If you have to use error boundaries.
Yeah,
right?
If you want to use error boundary, you have to use a class component. So what does this means is, as they mentioned in the Stack Overflow, there is no such equivalent hook for this component did catch, right? So that is being implemented. The many of the interview candidates we interview now, because we see so far, they all say we never use class. We use only functional. Okay. So when you say, okay, what is still not available? Only component did catch is not available. I'll take the component did catch separately, how that happens, right? So I'll have with a case like Ajax call failure or some sort of a JavaScript failure, anything of such sort. right?
Yeah.
Then you'll have some sort of idea, right? Yeah, I think that's all for today. I have left with some sort of battery now, some things.
So
You
what is the plan for the coming weeks? So what is the major topics missing now from what we have done?
it's a Redux.
Redux and that's it. No?
Uh, there are something related to form that is not too big topic, because if you are planning to implement something React and pointers, you don't need a form at all, because form will be coming handy when you're having a registration, login, and all that, right?
Mm. Mm.
So that we don't have. See, what I mean is, you have a login form, and when you're having a login form, you have to get the value from the user and post to the data and save the user and authenticate user, all that. And we don't do that often, right? So that
Yeah.
one topic I didn't cover. Okay.
Okay.
So then we are left with only this topic. If you see the React documentation page also,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you see main concept, we know JSX, we know how this, what is the component props, what is the state and life cycle, and we know how to handle the events, right? And conditional rendering, right? Getting a
Mm.
props and putting on symbol or question mark, and list and keys. List and keys, that's what I said, right? When you use this, you have to provide a key to the React component, so that React component will takes care of whether to render or not. So that is a
Yeah.
list and keys. There is a form.
So,
So forms is two things. One is a control component, other one is control components. That I'll tell you, because that is the least one. And there is something called thinking in React. Okay. So this is not a concept or something. When you see this UI, right? How you make this as a component, right? You have a search field, and which are this is a component now. Whether a search field is separate component, this checkbox is separate component, or altogether separate component, or this name is separate component, this row is separate component. There is some discussion how to break your UI component to a separate component.
got it.
They are making this separate component, all together one component, right? And
Yeah.
they're making the red is one component, separate component. This is another component, and the green altogether another component. So likewise, it's just give you insight. You can think of how you think in React, right? When you have a loading progress bar, so what is that? It is a HOC component, right? When you say, and then when you have a model, it is HOC again. So how you think on that, right? So that's a one thing. And the code splitting is nothing but when you have a more number of components, how you make it a single component, right? Like, let's say you have a arithmetic operation, you can still use a complete arithmetic, and you can divide into each separating and maintain it. So let's talk about that. And we see in the context API now. And error boundary I told you, but I never explained. There is something I told you about forward ref. Fragment is nothing but an empty wrapper. You can, because in React you can have only one root element, right? That's what we know.
Yeah.
Right? But what if I want to have everything parallel? So that time I can use a fragment. The equivalent symbol is empty parenthesis, empty curly braces. I mean empty braces, right? This one.
Yeah.
Instead of this fragment, you remove this fragment. Without this also, it is a fragment only. Without this React fragment, also fragment only. And we know higher order component, right? And then integrating with third-party libraries, how to do with the other one, like
Yeah.
Markdown.
This is one thing that we need to.
Yeah, this is one thing. Yeah, we will do this. See how they are
So,
using
so
the
why, first thing is when you say other libraries, are the libraries which are like React libraries
no,
and
no,
non-React libraries.
non-React libraries.
Yeah. So we need to know both.
We need to know both. Yeah,
Yeah.
React library is straightforward.
Straightforward.
See,
Yeah. Right.
it's
Yeah.
straightforward. See, button,
Yeah.
you are creating a component.
Uh,
Imagine someone already created a button, you have to import the
yeah.
button only.
Right. Okay. Only
And
just
you
add
have
it
to
to your
pass
package. Yeah.
and you have to pass the proper props to that.
Yeah.
Let's say
Right.
click event, you have to pass a callback function, colors, and you have to pass it. Okay. And then there comes a JSX. JSX is nothing but when you say uh, JSX, it behind the scene, it does this one only. Okay. So what I'm saying is, when you pass a div and the title property and all that, eventually it call the React.create element method only inside the React that passes your component. Let's say here, instead of a component, you'll say div and some properties and some childs. It's like your ext helper, DOM helper, right? This is your React helper. So basically your JSX will be handled by your create element. So if you want, if you have time, go through this JSX in depth. Okay, so this is a props means what, comparisons, literals and all that. And optimizing performance, this one I did not go through it. And then there is another concept called portal. Okay, portal is very, very simple. You have a root, right? You have a root, right? Whenever you're creating a React, you have a div id as a root, right, in your public folder. If you see, all your entire thing will be rendered inside this div only. Right, that's what in your index.js, what you say, your element you will provide, right? Index.root here. So you are wrapping your app here. Okay, what if I want to wrap it outside that? That's what the portal comes. So something like that portal is there. And these I never use the profiler API. So rest of the things you see, one thing we never considered is the type checking. This is nothing related to React in a way, just to make sure you are writing a proper data types. You are writing a props as a title, right? Title should be a string data type, right? It cannot be number, you can't pass, general standard, right? Those sort of things will come into picture with a type checking. So that will type prop type dot string. So this is nothing related to React as such. This is enhance your components in a way that this component accepts only the input as a string. This is like a further enhancement. This is nothing related to React as such. Okay. So, and then there is the form related uncontrolled components. This is nothing, man. Control components and uncontrolled components. If you think like, you could say, you have a input element, right? Input element as an on change event. On change event internally maintains the value, right? Value will be there, right? When you say value, default value, when you change on change, there will be on change. So that is DOM itself handling all this change event, right? If you say. But what if you don't want to DOM to control, input element to control your activity, in say your React has to control? That is a debate, right? That is a debate between your uncontrolled and controlled components. When you say control component, React will control that, right? Using a state information, you pass a state dot counter as a value to the input, and when you change it, a state will be get updated on the on change event, and then vice versa. This is called control components. Okay. You guys heard about a web components anywhere?
Web components. No.
This is something similar, but this is, I don't know whether it's evolving or not evolving. See, imagine you have a card component. You know the card component, what I'm saying, right? Profile card. So profile card HTML, profile card bootstrap, something will say. See this one, you see, right? So this one, what do you need? You need one div, right? And maybe you have to divide the div into two parts, and you have to place this image by moving its position to top or by something, and then you have a h1 tag and all that, right? And then you have some sort of a social link and all that.
All the links, yeah.
So what if I create this as a component, right? Even React you will do that today, right? But how will you do this in plain HTML? Right? So you can write your custom HTML element, by taking your div tag, your h1 tag, your image source and all that.
Yeah.
And you can create this component that is called web component. Okay. So for that, there is something called simple elements. See, that is your choice of interest, simple HTML elements or something. HTML elements. So this is, you understood, right? So it's something like a React only, but you create out of the box your own thing by using a web components. Web components is again custom components made out of list of HTML tags. Right. So there is a discussion also in that part how to use that. Web site phoning, if you guys go and you'll see there is a basic web component. This is a component, right? Okay. So
yeah, okay. You'll have the code also, right?
You have the code also. If you go to the GitHub, It's a component
This is
as a JavaScript only. It's a JavaScript only. You see, they're creating and then they're extending from HTML element. And then they're creating your actual template here.
Okay, okay. Okay, this is okay. Got it, got it. So this is like our X templates.
Actually, this is again your React only, but this is evolving. So the talk about what I'm showing is this is also one of the discussion around how you use a web component, right? And then one part we did not cover is testing. Testing I'll cover. Okay.
Yeah, testing is one. Yeah. Testing.
Then testing the hooks I had to cover few places because we covered state.
So Redux, external libraries, testings, hooks, and then packaging.
Yeah, packaging is. Packaging is like I'm like you only, so I have to read the webpack only. But currently, that one I haven't done that. I'll just do that. So that's all. That's all. So I'll try to load this, and also make sure to install the few extension in terms of React. One is ES7 React Redux native templates. Another one is
show me. What is it? Yes,
first you install this simple React snippet. Okay, this is the first extension. There is other extension.
Just share that name in this group only. I will copy and I'll paste it.
Okay, there is something called. I'll share the link in the Zoom itself. You guys will take or WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
I'll share it in the Zoom for now. I'll share it in the WhatsApp as well. So my internet once it comes, it will get, you guys will get. Okay. So this is the first extension you have to, and then there is second extension. What I said is this extension. Okay. This one also you guys can take.
And one more thing is we didn't touch up is Git.
Yeah, Git I'll cover. Git I'll actually I thought of starting a Git only, but we have to see now at least you go to the some of the GitHub repository, you know what is their code actually.
Definitely. Yeah.
At least we have an idea what is that, what is basically they're trying, what they're passing.
Yes.
So I passed this tool. So why this is right? Whenever I use something, I'll create a component. I'm typing something like RFC, right? RFC. Out of the box code.
Yeah. Okay. IntelliSense, right? Okay.
IntelliSense. You can use IMR, import React. There are something is there. RFC. There are a lot of differentiation is there with the complex, redux, and prop types.
Okay. Nice.
This is completely out of the box. You have a prop checking and you have a redux also. So there are these things. So for that, so install it and start coding. And also, if you are planning to use the GitHub, use the two extension. GitHub pull requests. This one from GitHub. Another one is GitLens. Okay. So this one maybe I'll tell you what it basically does is, if you see, whenever I go to one of my first tab repository, let me go there. This is my one of the repository. You see Praveen Kumar S 2 months ago adding latest something, you see. This is the GitLens. Okay. So GitLens is a tool extension that tells you according to your code what and all it change at what and all time, and you can hover on it, you can see that, and you will go to your GitHub also. Okay, so that's thing. So that you can do it later, but this is fine. Yeah, so that's all for the today's session. So I'm done. So keep posting the questions, and also I'm sending some links, right? Just those links are very useful. Okay, whenever you're finding a time, use it. The one link I shared, other one, right? The full stack dot something. That is look like super good one. Okay, you have to spend some time on that. That has end to end. Okay. And also, if you guys are interested after all this, I'll take the Django.
Okay, yeah, why not?
Right, and Django is one of the good library. So our feature will be on Django, Python stuff. So get prepared.
So again, so once you now depends. Like if you want to start Django, or I can start with AWS also.
For what?
How to use AWS, like AWS solution architect, right? I
Yeah. You
I
can go
kind of
on there.
follow that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can go on. You can go on. See, Django, that fellow, actually, there are something beyond what is given there. Okay. That is a real case. So
Mm.
what people have covered in all the tutorial, right? They
Mm.
created an application, they added a views, they added a routing, they added a forms. They are given a way you can manage the database
Mm.
like that. But there is something out of that. See, when you say a full stack developer, you should know end to end, right? Like session validation, authentication, cache, cookie management, and the user management and all that.
Mm. Mm.
So that is actually fundamental, but nobody covers that.
Right.
We'll try to
That
cover
actually
that.
that's very important also.
Yeah, so we have to find the user authentication and all that.
Mm.
Yeah, actually, currently I'm on that only. I'm still debugging our own repository. I have still some lot of question around. Let's see.
Mm.
You guys don't have to go for a Django now if you are planning.
Mm.
See, one thing I'll tell you. First, read the CSS. Okay, especially the Flexbox.
Yeah, CSS and yeah, HTML5. Yeah.
First, you guys first learn the CSS Flexbox and Gridbox. So
Mm.
basic CSS. When someone give you and draw something, see, you yourself sit, okay, take a paper, right? And you
Mm.
draw some box. Okay, I want my header to be top, and left side I want this, right side I want to divide this into this. So you
Mm.
could see what are the various ways you can achieve that.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
is more than a React, you need that.
I feel yes. Yeah, you're right.
So because we are all coming from the EXT world, we don't know
Yeah,
what is
we
the
don't have to
CSS.
write. We never wrote HTML, right? Unless we have to like define some extemplate. Other than that, we don't write any
Yes.
XML. Mm.
We
I mean,
always search in the web to find a solution, but we
yeah,
never
yeah,
designed it. See, if you
right.
are coming from web designing, then you will
Mm.
have a proper understanding of bootstrap and all that, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so fundamentally, before starting anything, first start with the CSS Flexbox, grid, and all that. So do some 1 or 2 exercises. So because before the Flexbox, there was a float, right? CSS float property, float right, left, and all that.
yeah. Mm.
So then we came the Flex, and then came the grid.
Mm.
So just do hands on that.
Okay,
Once
see,
you
I
go
have taken that
implementing.
new course, right? I don't know if you have seen. Build responsive real world websites with HTML5 and CSS.
Yeah. That I've seen. I've added one
Yeah,
more thing in a cart also, SaaS and Flexbox that we have to purchase. Let's see when the sale comes, we'll purchase that.
yeah, yeah.
There is some course. There are 2 things maybe we have to have. Okay, but for you also, there is some JavaScript data structure is there. Okay, but nobody get into the JavaScript data structure. Okay, since we are getting experience, we'll be asked in a questions on a JavaScript, especially in terms of JavaScript algorithms, especially big O notations. Okay.
Big notation. See,
So
did any of you start with design patterns? That thing is there
design,
in the course.
yeah,
No.
design patterns I haven't started.
Yeah, design. Fine.
But
You'll
these
just
are the
start
things.
design. I think design pattern. Design patterns. Once you start, you'll get to know. You'll have to know data structures also there.
Okay.
So it's yeah.
No, this is common to everyone because in an interview, your data structure is also being evaluated, like the number of variables you use, number of for loops you use, and all that. Okay,
Mm.
so that matters. So we have to excel in all the areas, but proceed one by one.
Yeah. Okay. So next week we'll take up Redux, right?
Yeah. Next week is Redux only.
Okay. Fine.
So Redux may be quite confusing, but to start using it, Redux is quite easy. Okay, so once after Redux is over,
Mm.
you are perfectly ready for creating a React application, at
Mm.
least a
Yeah.
small
Okay.
application.
Yeah. So we'll start
Okay.
with that's the plan.
So
Yeah.
then you can start creating a weather applications, weather forecasting by location, by searching and all that.
Mm.
So in order to do that, you need a CSS. That's what I would always say. CSS.
Yeah.
Because so far, so now we never beautified our page, right? We simply writing whatever the HTML comes in our way.
Yeah.
But actual work, your work will be shown in that one only. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. So I'm running out of battery. Dinesh, you have any questions? I didn't send other link to Dinesh. I think so. Libin, you have anything to ask?
No. Yeah. Good.
Okay. Keep me posted and keep
Okay.
reading, keep improvising, keep helping each other. Okay, cool.
Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Also, Praveen sir, like if there are any tutorial on just creating a small project in React, YouTube video or something, you can just
Arey
share.
yaar, I already shared it. You guys have to follow. There are some 20 projects out of the box you can create. Okay.
Okay.
I'll share it again. I'll share that.
Okay, sure.
Okay. You just simply go to GitHub, man. You can see React projects. Okay. Let me share that link. You have a small project. Not
Okay.
too complex. Only uses a React. Now you know where they're making Ajax call. Now you know what is the set state, what is the use state, and all that, right? I'll share the project. You go through the code and check out the code and load it to your local and call npm install and run the project, and you'll see by yourself what's happening.
Okay, sure.
I'll reshare that again. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay.